Welcome to the Virtual Foundry podcast.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Virtual Foundry podcast. This is Volume 4, Episode 9. Today is Friday, September 29th, 2023. The time is 2:58 p.m. in the afternoon, and the temperature today is 72 degrees Fahrenheit. That's 22 degrees for you Celsius users. We're a little bit warm for this time of year, but we'll be looking for some cooler temps a week from now, more in line with what we expect to see with a beautiful Wisconsin fall. Today, we're going to be answering the question, what is the biggest part that I can make with FFF metal? I'm Tricia Cease, president of the Virtual Foundry. And with me today, as always, is Brad Woods, founder, inventor, and all-around science guy. Say hello, Brad.
Hi there.
Now, as you know, FFF metal is metal that you 3D print on your regular 3D printer like Creality, Ultimaker, Bamboo Lab. You heat the printed part then in a standard kiln to remove the binder and sinter those metal particles together to make yourself a full metal part. Now, we often get the question, what's the biggest part that I can make? Well, there really is no straight answer because every part of the Virtual Foundry's FFF metal 3D printing process is open, that meaning you're using the slicer, printer, and kiln of your choice. The variables are unlimited. The upper limits of size have not been tested, and the future will hold the specific answer. Now, we do offer some design guidelines that describe the sweet spots for FFF metal parts. You'll find those on our website in a blog post. I'll show you how to get there. From the home page of the website, go to the upper right corner and click that search function. Type in the word design, hit enter, and click on that first option, design for additive manufacturing with filament. This is a blog post that has lots of information for you, so give that a read. But what we're really looking for here is this document, design guidelines for 3D printing and sintering with filament. So Brad, talk us through these parameters that work best in the FFF metal process.
Right. So as you said before, the upper end of it really is only limited to, what you want to try or how you want to work with it. Okay, so as you're designing your part and slicing it can also influence how it sinters. Things tend to be more challenging if they're large and solid. So if you have large, thick, solid walls, that can be more challenging than if the same wall has, whether it's either thinner or you use less infill or use that kind of a strategy. The challenge is that the thicker parts, you need to remove the binder from the very center of each of the printed areas. So if they're thick and dense, as the gases are escaping, they're more likely to sort of distort your part in that example. So in our design guidelines here, we talk about maximum part size being 60 by 60 by 60 millimeters. And this is a size and shape that's known to work consistently, but it's by no means the actual upper limit. As far as minimum part size, we've done single line prints, so literally printing wires with our copper and bronze materials. So with a 0.6 millimeter nozzle, you can print a single line width, several inches long, and sinter it into a literal piece of wire. So there really is no small, as small as you can print with your 3D printer is the smallest shape that you can sinter.
So Brad mentioned those parameters that work well, and he also talked about going outside of those parameters. So if you want to do that, we'll help you as much as we can with guidance and advice on tweaks to our published process so that you get the part that you're looking for. Now, He also mentioned that sometimes if your part is very thick, you might have a blowout where that gas is trying to escape, which brings us to an excellent segue to show you the largest part that we've made here, or the largest solid part. So Brad, you've got that there.
Yeah. So this is a print. We printed it completely solid. It's very heavy. It weighs over 6 pounds, about 6.5 pounds. And this is a good example of the challenges you have when things are printed large and solid. As you can see, the side of it is ruptured. And this happened when the wall delaminated from the 100% infill. And it happens because all of the binder that's in there needs to become a gas and needs to leave the part. And in this case, it just ruptured the surface. But as you can see, the rest of the print is very good. And 6 pounds of copper is a lot of copper.
And do you have an example there of a different kind of large part?
Yeah, so this is the 3D print of, this is the stadium that someone that they scanned it and cleaned it up. This is just on printables. It's on all of the major model repositories, but this is quite large and was very effective and very simple to sinter. And as you can see, it doesn't have any large solid areas, which is part of what made it simple, or partly what made it simple to sinter and not very challenging.
So that's a great example of a large part that can work well in this process, because even though it's large, the wall thicknesses are not, or the walls aren't very thick, and they're also uniform throughout the part. So that piece is going to work well in this process. Brad, give us some other recommendations if you want to do a large part. What are some pieces of advice that we've given to our partner innovators in the past?
Right. So these concepts generally fall under design for additive manufacturing. So you want to design your part in a way that's suitable for the process. And one of the easiest things you can do is just do it as multiple parts that you would later either bronze or braze or weld together. The materials can be TIG welded, lots of options, torch welding, soldered. However you want to do it, you can break your part into smaller multiple pieces. And this is probably the first thing that we recommend to people that are going for very large parts. The next limitation is simply your kiln size. Well, obviously your printer size, but setting that aside, you can always buy a larger printer. Kilns are a little bit different. They become much more costly as you scale up in size. So it just makes sense to develop parts that fit in the equipment that you're working with.
If you want to do a larger part, also we would suggest starting with the small representative part. Start with a small piece that's a part of your larger part so that you can see how it behaves in the process. So will your larger part even work? Save yourself a little trouble and expense with filament and the other items that go along with this process, and just start with something small, see how it works, and then move into a larger phases of your part.
Right. The shrinkage phase of the sintering process, it magnifies as you get larger. So I mean, a 1-inch piece is only going to shorten by 10% of that. But if it's 100 millimeters and it shrinks by 10%, that's a full 10 millimeters. So your part is actually changing the area that it occupies inside of your kiln or sintering vessel. It's more dramatic as it gets larger. Just account for that and you won't have a problem.
And as you've seen in our other videos, the process calls for you burying your print in a refractory ballast material in a crucible. That's what provides that part shape support. That refractory ballast helps the binder leave the part, and then it also supports that part shape during the sintering process. All of that is contained within a crucible, and the larger the part that you have, the harder time you're going to have finding a crucible to fit all of that. Now, we do have an option for custom crucible sizes. That's available only for the USA at this time, shipping domestically. Brad, what if you had a part that had thick sections and thin sections in the same part? What's going to happen with that during sintering?
What'll happen is the thin sections will be done debinding before the thicker sections. So our strategy here is to just take the debinding cycle very slowly. Just follow the instructions, don't hurry it. The main cause of distortions in the metal 3D prints is when people try to hurry the debind cycle. If you go slow enough, all of the plastics, all of the polymers will sublimate and come off nice and easily as a gas. If you go too quickly, they'll literally melt and boil. And this obviously completely, destroys your part. So if you go too quickly, you're going to have a situation where the thin areas came out perfect, but the thick areas became distorted because you heated too quickly.
So what's the biggest part that you can make? Well, it depends on the size of your printer, the size of your kiln, and the size of your enthusiasm for experimentation. Really, the sky's the limit. The technology is still very new, so there's everywhere to go with it.
Yes.
Now, Brad, I have one more very important question for you before we wrap up the podcast today.
Okay.
How do you keep a bagel from getting away?
I don't know.
You put locks on it.
Nice.
Hey, out there, if you have a cool project you'd like to showcase in this format, write to me at info@thevirtualfoundry.com. Or if you have a topic you'd like us to do a deep dive on, we would love to do a podcast with or for you. Again, reach out at info@thevirtualfoundry.com and we can talk about that. Look for us on all your favorite social media channels and be sure to like and subscribe the YouTube channel. Until next time, happy printing, everybody.
Yep. Thank you.